welcome back to Kingdom Inspired Kids, where parents talk, where we help parents and caregivers like you raise confident, Christ-centered kids who thrive. I'm your host and founder, Calvette Boyd, and today we're talking about something that hits really close to home for me and so many of us raising children that have ADHD. And today is going to be about sleep struggles. Have you ever tucked your child into bed only to hear, "I can't sleep" for the 10th time in a row? Trust me, you're not alone. My kid is an older teenager, and I hear the same thing. As a matter of fact, what sparked me to even do this episode is because this last week has been a really, really challenging week. There were 2 mornings where I was woken up at 3 a.m. back to back, 2 days in a row. And I was so exhausted, just being transparent. I was so exhausted. I couldn't even get up and go to church on Sunday because I was up from like 3 a.m. to 5 a.m. and I was exhausted, and I had just gone to bed at like 1:30. So parents, if you're one of those parents that have that going on like so many of us do, you are not alone. Today we're diving into sleep, why sleep is such a challenge in kids and teens with ADHD, and what we can do as parents to help them along the way. Let's first of all, let's start with the science behind what happens if you're a person that has been diagnosed or your children have been diagnosed with ADHD. I was actually with my daughter's pediatrician this week, and I was asking some questions. I'm like, listen, I am sleep deprived and I need some help. So I need to know what's going on. And one of the things he asked me was, he said, "Have you tried melatonin?" I'm like, "Yeah, that doesn't work." "Have you tried Benadryl?" "Yeah, that doesn't work." Because what happens is they get immune to those things. So let's start with the science behind it, the brain and sleep. ADHD affects how your brain manages 2 important chemicals. One of those is dopamine, and I think the way you say the other one is non-refractory or something like that. But they're responsible for helping people focus. It's for your focus, your attention, and yes, it also affects your sleep. So when these chemicals are out of balance in the brain doesn't always know when it's time to settle down. So even if your child may be yawning, that doesn't mean they're sleepy or they're tired. Their brain could still be wide awake, and it can make it a battle during bedtime. My daughter is older, and it's still a challenge. I can tell you, like, I've been sleep deprived the entire time she's been in the world because it has always been a challenge getting to bed. And, kids do that anyway. A lot of kids are like, "Well, I need to go potty. I'm hungry. My stomach hurts. I don't feel good. My head hurts." We hear those things anyway for children who don't necessarily have children that haven't been diagnosed with ADHD, but you definitely know what I'm talking about, parents. If you have a child that is diagnosed with ADHD, it becomes a battle. So let's talk about the mental and physical restlessness that's common in ADHD. You know that feeling when your brain won't stop thinking, replaying the day, planning tomorrow, or even imagining wild what if scenarios. What if I can tell you my brain, I've never been diagnosed with ADHD, but I believe that it could be a thing for me. I can tell you that my brain is one of those that it just keeps going. It just keeps going. I can replay a conversation that I had with someone. I can replay that conversation 4 or 5 times in my head. I can start planning tomorrow in my head, and I haven't even gotten till tomorrow, but I'm always like, I sleep with a notepad next to my bed in case I want to jot something down, or in case I wake up in the middle of the night and I think of something, or I'm almost asleep and I think of something and I write it down. So I can tell you at my age, if I feel like that, can you imagine what our kids feel like? These little kids, or 7, 8 year olds, or even your teenagers thinking about things, you know, what if this happens at school tomorrow? What if I get to church and this happens? What if I forget my lines if I'm in a play? What if I forget my dance routine if I'm dancing, I have a performance? So these things can go over, like they can continuously have racing thoughts, and like they're restless. That's how many kids feel every night. Their bodies may be tired, but their brains are still sprinting. They may struggle with hyperactivity or sensory issues, which makes it harder for them to get comfortable or stay still long enough to fall asleep. So, have you ever seen babies or children that take what we used to call cat naps, or they fake sleep? So they fall asleep for a few minutes and then they're right back up. That could be a sign of ADHD. So those are some things to think about. Here's something many people don't know. Many individuals with ADHD have a naturally delayed sleep cycle. It's like their internal clock runs a few hours late. So while most kids are getting sleepy at 9 p.m. and they're getting ready for bed, your child may not feel tired until midnight or 11 p.m. or midnight, even if they have to get up early. They may have to get up early for school, but their brain and their bodies are just not tired. And then they still jump back up in the morning. This mismatch can lead to chronic sleep deprivation, which only makes ADHD symptoms worse during the day. So one of the things that the doctor talked about was when children, the pediatrician this week talked about was when children don't get their sleep. For example, he told my daughter, you at your age, you need to get like 10 hours of sleep, anywhere from 8 to 10 hours of sleep, but you need that. So he said, I suggest you go to bed at 9 o'clock, turn everything off, no TV, no electronics, none of that stuff. Go ahead, lay in your bed at 8 o'clock. By 9 o'clock, you should be asleep. And then you get back up the next morning and you've had your rest and you're not irritable. You're not as irritable. You can go through the day, you can focus better and things like that. If you don't sleep those full 8 to 10 hours, then your body kind of goes into like a shock where, okay, I didn't get my 10 hours of sleep tonight. So then the next night, his suggestion was if you don't go to bed go fall asleep about 9 o'clock, let's say you don't go to sleep until 11. Then the next night, you want to go to bed 2 hours early so that you can fall asleep, because what your body does is it continues to build this sleep bank. And so you become irritable, you can't focus, you're upset, you can become nauseous, and all those kind of things. So that's something to consider. Make sure that you're thinking about that when you're talking to your kids, or your kids are not, you're planning for them to go to bed, especially now. Like we're in summertime, but school starts here in a couple of weeks, and it takes 21 days for something to become a habit, right? So what you want to do is you want to go ahead and get those kids on a sleep pattern, on a consistent pattern. Now let's talk about medication. Stimulant medicines like Ritalin or Adderall, Concerta or methylphenidate, they help kids focus during the day, but if you take them too late, they can interfere with sleep. So I can just tell you, if we, like on Sundays, we get up a little bit later because our church starts later. So, our church starts early, but we get up a little bit later on Sundays. That's kind of our day that we get to sleep in a little bit. And so if my daughter does not take her medicine by 8:30 a.m., we just go the day without medicine. We don't do it because she will, if she takes that medicine at 10 or 11 o'clock, she's up until 12, 1, 2 a.m. So make sure that that's something you want to think about. If you take them too late, it can interfere with their sleep. Again, that causes that vicious cycle of the sleep bank being, you're putting too many negative hours into the sleep bank, and you really need 8 to 10 hours to function. If you notice your child is up late and they're jittery, talk to your doctor about adjusting their medication, or even the dosage or the timing of the medication. My daughter's medicine just says take every morning. It does not say a specific time, but I know even though morning is until 11:59 a.m., we are not taking medicine past 8:30. We just have to deal with whatever happens that day without the medication. If there's no focus, if there's hyperactivity, whatever it may be, we just have to, that's just something we have to deal with. Sometimes even a small shift in their medication can make a difference. So make sure that you are communicating with your doctor and you're letting your doctor know exactly what's going on, especially if your children are up late, not sleeping, and they're jittery. Let's be real. It's really hard to have routines when ADHD is in the mix of your children. And yet a solid sleep routine is one of the best tools we have. So here are some suggestions that I have. Set a consistent bedtime and a wake up time, even on the weekends, even on vacation, even during Christmas break, spring break, summer holidays. It does not matter. Set a consistent bedtime and wake up time, and I'm telling you, you'll see a difference in your children. I know when my children were younger, I used to 7 p.m., they were taking their bath. 7:30, last snack. 8 o'clock, going to bed. As they get older, you can change that. But even being older, they need consistency. Create a calm down routine. Like I was saying, maybe their bath, soft music. You could use like lavender bath oil. You could rub them down with like the lavender baby lotion. You can dim the lights, things like that, so that they can calm down. And this can help them to have like a real routine. Limit screen time at least 1 hour before bed. Listen, these kids love to swipe and tap, is what I call it. They love being on their phones. They love being on their tablets, their iPads. They love that. But these children don't need all of that screen time. Please, please, please think about it and start monitoring your children when they're on there a lot or when they're on there a little. And you'll see a difference. So limit their screen time to at least 1 hour before bedtime. Offer gentle reminders and a lot of patience. Listen, my patients, I can tell you, have been challenged this summer. It has been a different summer for me. And as your kids get older, like my daughter is older, and so she's almost to the age of adulthood. But you also have to understand that even though they may physically be that age, that doesn't mean that they are mentally that age. And so those are some things that you want to consider. If your child needs movement to settle down at night, try letting them bounce on a yoga ball. Let them stretch or listen to some soothing music while lying down. Hopefully, these are some things that will help them to kind of calm down. Parenting a child with ADHD requires wisdom, love, and a lot of grace. God sees your effort, every late night lullaby, every whispered prayer, every meltdown that they may have at bedtime, every tear you've cried, every time you've gotten frustrated. But listen, it's a part of parenting a child or teen with ADHD. It's just something that happens. And if sleep isn't perfect yet, it's okay. Progress is what matters. So you just, as long as you are seeing some kind of movement, that's what you want to see. It may not be the movement that you want it to be, but as long as you see something, that's great. Let Psalm 4 and 8 be your reminder. It says, in peace I will lie down and sleep. For you alone, Lord, make me dwell in safety. Here's a quick recap of what we talked about today. ADHD brains don't shut off easily at night. Sleep issues in our children with ADHD are real, and parents, they are not your fault. Sometimes we think these things are our fault. What could I have done different raising them? What could I have done different if the environment was different? What could I do different so that they're not having these issues? It is not your fault. Focus on creating a routine and calming the mind and body. Remember those bedtime routines, the music, the lavender oil or the lavender lotion, the same time to wake up, the same time to go to sleep. Just remember that creating a routine is something that they need. Talk to your child's doctor about medication timing if needed, because maybe they're staying up too late. Sometimes medicine is delayed response and sometimes it's immediate, I believe is what it's called. Lead with love and patience. You're doing the best that you can do. Sometimes we feel like, oh my gosh, I am not doing enough. This is too much and this is hard. You're doing the best that you can do. So give yourself some grace, give yourself some credit, show yourself some love for being the parent. I've always heard God didn't bring us this far to leave us, and he didn't. He who has begun a good work in us will complete it. So just know you're doing better than you think you are, and keep going. Thank you so much for tuning in to Kingdom Inspired Kidz Podcast, where parents talk, where it's real. We get down to the nitty-gritty of what parents actually deal with. If this episode helped you in any way, please share it with a friend, subscribe, leave a review, and don't forget, always think about it's not your fault why your children may not be sleeping. For more information, encouragement, support, or helpful tools, make sure you follow me on YouTube at Kingdom Inspired Kidz with the Z. So KINGDOM INSPIRED KIDZ P6E. Or you can visit my website at kingdominspiredkids.com. And listen, guys, you are not alone. You're doing the best that you can do. I just want you to know, parents, be encouraged. It has been a rough last week for me, but I made it through. And so will you. So I want to see you guys every Wednesday, 7 a.m. Please like, comment, subscribe. Follow me on all social media platforms, and I hope to see you guys soon. Thank you so much, and be blessed.